Hello everyone, welcome to our audiobook channel. If you enjoy this story or want to hear more exciting content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Your feedback helps us improve and bring even more captivating stories. Enjoy listening. Chapter 1, Second Chance. Thwack. A big bulky leg landed on a young man's stomach who looked like he was just a bag of skin and bones. Did I or did I not ask you to bring more lunch money today? Do you expect me to starve, bitch? A short and healthy youngster wearing a school uniform spat out as he landed another kick on the skinny figure. This made him buckle down and collapse, coughing up more blood on the ground. Ish. Be careful, dude. Don't kill him or something. Another student standing near chimed in. Nah, this bitch might be spineless but he is pretty durable. Isn't that right, Liam? Aren't you the best punching bag in the entire school? The healthier student raised his leg to land another kick on the seemingly almost dead and curled up boy lying on the ground, but luckily for him, the school bell loudly rang the very next second, grabbing everyone's attention. All right. Let's go. It's that nasty old woman's class. I don't want to spend my evening in detention staring at that ugly ass face again. The group of tall and sturdy high school students chatted amongst themselves and casually strolled out of the small alleyway, where the so-called punching bag was left behind without any care or concern. Liam laid still, completely silent and frozen, afraid to even take another breath, but it was not because he feared the bunch of high school bullies who had just thrashed him. Rather it was because of something entirely different. Just a few seconds ago, he had been battling for his life, fighting for an elixir that was one of the heavenly treasures. But how could he compare to the other monsters who were also competing with him for the same treasure? After all, he was just a small fry. So in the end, an attack landed and he was killed without any sweat, but somehow instead of dying, he had instead returned to the past, to 3 years ago when everything began. As seconds slowly ticked by, Liam became more and more sure that everything that was happening was in fact real and not just a twisted, wishful dream. There was no doubt. He had somehow miraculously returned back to the days when he was younger, when he was still in high school. When everything was yet to happen. It was as real as his loudly pounding heart and as real as his burning injuries, giving him stabs of pain everywhere on his body. Liam was not someone who was new to this sort of pain. In fact, he was quite used to this feeling. The thing that he was not used to was luck. That's right. Somehow he ended up lucky enough to get such an unbelievable second chance. Liam's lips curled upwards as he slowly picked himself up from the ground, his body unsteadily wobbling as if he would fall down again any second now. However, contrary to his trembling body, his eyes were sharp and cold. There was unfathomable darkness that swirled within them which would probably scare the kids who were just seconds ago pummeling him down. I am back. Liam grinned, as he banged his bleeding hand made into a fist on the shabby vandalized wall near him. A loud thud echoed. And the shock wave which as a result traveled through his body revitalized him. He slowly and steadily limped out of the alleyway, and from there, he directly started walking back to his house, not even bothering to take a look at the school where he was currently supposed to be sitting. Liam dragged his bruised body all the way to his cramped apartment, which was about 10 blocks away from the school. Though it hurt like hell, his face only wore an obscene wide grin. As he neared his apartment, a familiar figure peeked her head out, instantly making the big smile disappear from Liam's face. He had been far too focused on other things and he had completely forgotten about her. May. His words came out in a whisper as his voice got stuck in his throat and he lunged forward to pull and hug his little sister. She is still alive. Liam trembled as he held her slender figure in his arms. Brother? What happened? Are you crying? Did they hurt you badly today as well? The little girl lifted her head up and pitifully looked at Liam's face that was swollen here and there, covered with cuts and scraps. Seeing his bad state, she immediately started tearing up and sobbing, rivers streaming out of her eyes. Ah! Liam was immediately speechless. For as long as he could remember, he had always been bad at this, at consoling girls. Unsure of how to console the little girl who was almost 4 years younger than him, he ruffled her head and awkwardly, "Let's go inside and talk." The two siblings then went inside and Liam closed the dull rusted door behind him. It was only the two of them living in the small cramped apartment. Their parents had died a couple of years ago from a construction accident, leaving these two siblings all alone with no one else. But Liam had a good head on his shoulder and he somehow managed everything and made sure that they got the settlement money that they deserved. He was like a scrappy dog that didn't let go of his bone. Though he was ultimately cheated in the end, he still got something out of it. Enough to get them through for a few years. With that money, he rented this cramped apartment in a building in the slum district that clearly needed renovating. But all that didn't matter now. Nothing mattered now because, in just a couple of days, everything was going to completely change. Liam looked around to see the place which was both familiar and unfamiliar to him. Anger and pain surfaced in his eyes as he remembered everything that had happened or rather was yet to happen. Clenching his fist, he collapsed on the ground and let out a burst of loud maniacal laughter. "Brother! Are you really all right?" The little girl blinked and stared at her brother who had seemingly gone completely batshit crazy. "Hey! I am fine, May. Don't worry, everything will be fine now." Liam stood up and heated up a pail of water first to clean all his injuries. His hands moved swiftly as if he was extremely familiar with what he was doing and he finished the first aid within minutes, properly bandaging everything that was bleeding and broken. He also popped in a couple of painkillers which reduced his pain a lot, helping him think better. First things first. He needed to go and purchase that item as soon as possible. Liam took another look to make sure his injuries were all right and he then threw on a pair of clean pants and a shirt. "Brother, are you heading out to school again? It won't be late now?" Mylan worriedly asked. "No kiddo. I am going out somewhere else." "Huh?" Mylan was surprised. "Grocery shop? But it's not Sunday today." The two siblings had a routine that they followed, so she was surprised about this new change. Liam ruffled her head again, making the little girl pout cutely. "I am heading out to the game store. I will be back soon. Be good." Eh? Eh? Chang Mylan stood at the doorstep in a daze, watching her brother's disappearing figure. "Game store? Since when does brother play games?" Chapter 2, Preparations. With his hands in his pant pockets, Liam casually strolled into the electronic shop at the corner of the street. "Brother, can you give me a blood battle game capsule?" "Huh?" The store clerk looked up, slightly startled as the customer talking to him didn't look like someone who could afford the high-end gaming capsule. Such a thing cost a fortune. In the last decade alone, games and gaming software had developed a lot and gaming capsules were now all the rage. These allowed users to log in for hours together without ever having to step out except for maybe to eat or drain their bodily fluids. But to buy Blood Battle, the store clerk could tell that the young man in front of him was not that well-to-do. In fact, he looked like he hadn't eaten anything in a while. So he took pity on the seemingly naive youngster and advised, "Brother, are you sure that this is the one you want? Blood Battle game is actually not that popular. Why don't you go with Violet Garden or Eden's Hold? I think you can earn more money with those games. I also have an account in them and I am also playing part-time to earn more money." The clerk chuckled awkwardly. He was not that much older than Liam and he was also in the bottom middle class. So he could empathize with him. Liam patiently listened to the man, but after hearing everything he only shook his head. "Thank you for your kindness. I think I am going to stick with the blood battle gear for now." Seeing that he was already set in his decision, the clerk didn't bother anymore. After all, he would also get a nice commission if someone bought that insanely expensive gear. "All right. Give me your address. I will set up the delivery. Half the payment now and half the payment on delivery." Liam calmly smiled and nodded. He took out a card that looked like it had only been used once or twice and swiped it on the machine. Finishing the payment. Ding. The machine beeped, eating away a big chunk of his settlement money that he had been meticulously saving and protecting. Gaming capsules were extremely expensive, especially the blood battle capsule, which was one of the most high-end ones available in the market currently. Their game might suck, but their capsule was top-notch. Why did Liam still buy this one? That's because he knew something that the others still had no idea about. In about 2 days, every single VR game would be inexplicably hacked and erased into nothingness. It didn't matter whether it was Blood Battle or Violet Garden or Eden's Hold. Everything will magically disappear, to be replaced by the one and only game, Evolution Online, which could somehow be played with any gaming capsule irrespective of the gaming company that had made the capsule. Several computer experts, hackers from the darknet across the world, would try to rectify the situation and crack the mystery, but in the end, they would all only fail. No one would be able to get even a hint about this mysterious new game, Evolution Online, that will inevitably take the world by a storm. However, this was only the beginning. The scary part came after the first major patch, when reality suddenly merged with virtual reality. People who were able to split a rock apart inside the game would surprisingly find themselves being able to do the same in real life as well. Abilities, superpowers, magic, darkness, everything would spill over from the game to reality. However, despite what one might be inclined to think, this would not be a good thing. The world would delve into complete and utter chaos and plunge into an apocalyptic bloodbath. Governments would be replaced by guilds, and kingdoms and corporations would scramble behind them, trying to salvage whatever value that their money still had. It would be the onset of a completely new era. Liam gripped his bank card tightly as memories of the terrifying future flashed past his mind. He still had no idea why or how he was able to somehow come back to the past, but now that he had, he was determined to grab every single advantage that he could get. This was why he had selected the best gear currently available, even though it cost him 5 times what the other capsules cost. After giving all the remaining details required and quickly finishing the transaction, Liam stepped out of the shop. He didn't bother explaining his actions to the store clerk. The man had indeed been kind to him, but he had lost faith in humanity a long time ago. After dealing with the matter of game capsule, Liam then walked over to the nearby consumer store and prepaid a chunk of money for electricity and higher bandwidth internet. He then headed to the grocery store and purchased a huge bulk of supplies and dry food items that didn't need refrigeration. After a few hours, he was finally done with all the preliminary preparations and started heading back home. Liam looked at his card that somehow felt lighter now, and a small chuckle escaped his lips. He was betting everything he had on himself. Some might find it impulsive, but he knew that this was his only chance to survive and change his and his sister's fate. Chapter 3, Log In. Brother. Is this really all right? Mylan peeked at Liam, who was busily cooking a feast for the both of them using their one-top stove. Of course, it is. Both of us are still growing and we need a lot of nutrients. It was only a small studio apartment, so she could clearly see her brother humming and sweating while he cooked a variety of dishes with a smile on his face. The smell was so delicious that she was not even able to focus on her homework. Since when did her brother learn to cook like this? With almost a visible drool on her face, the little girl stood up and walked over to Liam. Brother, what about school? You haven't gone to school for the last 2 days. School ah. Ha ha ha. Liam wanted to laugh out loud and say how useless the educational institutions were about to become, but instead, he just ruffled his sister's head with a smile. Your brother is dumb. So I will count on May to study well and help me in the future. AHH. Ah. Don't say that, brother. The little girl pouted, puffing her cheeks. The two siblings then joked around and chatted for a while before digging into the feast. It had been a while since Liam was able to enjoy meals like this. He lived like a mongrel in his last life. He was weak to provide for his sister, and in the end, he was also not able to save her when terrible things happened. He would never let all those things repeat this time around. A cold glint appeared and then disappeared, his lips curling into a smile again. The duo chatted and laughed for a while, after which Mylin went back to her homework and Liam sat next to her staring outside the single window of their apartment. There were still 6 more hours to go. The patch and the override of the current video games with Evolution Online would happen this evening at 4 p.m. sharp. Liam gazed at the game capsule, which now occupied half of their living room space. Though the inevitable future still terrified him a little, he also couldn't help but feel a vague excitement and anticipation coursing through his veins. He had already sort of formed a plan as to how he would go about everything, so without much to do, he kept an alarm for 3:30 p.m. and decided to take a small nap. But unfortunately, he was far too excited to fall asleep, and the sun was beating down with a vengeance. Though they were on the ground floor, they still felt the burn of the summer heat. Liam clicked his tongue and he got up and took out a couple of ice cream sticks from the freezer. He gave one to Mylin and sucked on the other one for a bit. He saw his hard-working little sister immediately go back to her studies even when eating the ice cream. He couldn't help but smile. If you are working hard this much, then I guess it is about time I begin as well. Liam had initially wanted to start everything when the patch began, giving him a little breather, but since his hard-working sister was putting him to shame, he decided to do some stretching at least. Removing all clothes from his body except for his boxer shorts, he began doing a unique series of exercises. His body was still a bag of skin and bones, as he had only been eating well for the past couple of days, so all his stances ended up being very wobbly and awkward. However, in just a few minutes, he steadied even those wobbly postures and easily brought his body under his control. Sweat trickled down his thin body in rivers, scaring the living daylights out of the little girl. Brother! You are going to break something. Ah! Mylin shouted out, seeing him twist his body into various shapes and forms like a pretzel. First of all, her brother looked like a skeleton doing exercises, and secondly, what the hell was with these completely random poses? And when he did the one pose that she could recognize, it still scared her because Liam was standing upside down supporting his entire body with just his index finger. Despite getting worried looks from his sister, Liam continued with his workout for another half an hour before finally melting into a child's pose and relaxing a bit. In the blink of an eye, it was already 3:50 p.m. and Liam knew that it was time. May come here. He waved his hand and called his little sister. The door is locked now. Don't open it for anyone even if they knock. Don't go out. Don't go to school tomorrow. There is food in the fridge in case you are hungry. If you are bored, just watch TV. Do some jumping around or dancing once in a while. Don't continuously just be sitting. You should also not touch the game capsule. Be a good girl and sit here and wait for brother, all right? Liam ruffled her hair and carefully instructed her. He knew that his sister worshipped him and never once failed to listen to him, which was why he trusted the little girl and didn't rent another apartment for the game capsule. After giving her a few more do's and don'ts, he then quickly popped into the capsule, opening it and closing it after him. Inside was pitch black, which was good because otherwise the players would be overwhelmed with a feeling of claustrophobia. The capsule was designed in such a way that the players felt as if they were floating in nothingness, at least until the game was logged into. Once they log in, their entire consciousness would be in the game and they wouldn't feel anything related to the capsule their body was lying in. There was still a couple of minutes for 4 p.m. and so Liam logged into the blood battle game. All he needed to do was say log in and he was in. Almost immediately, a bloody sword, thick red blood dripping from the edges, appeared in front of him, his consciousness already pulled away into the virtual reality. Welcome to Blood Battle. This. A robotic male voice started announcing, but before it even finished the first line, the voice cracked, the image distorted and the bloody sword completely disappeared. Instead, in the pitch black space, a small gift box appeared and Beethoven's Für Elise started loudly playing. This is it. Liam clenched his fists, his breathing ragged and his heart racing by the second. As he hadn't seen this opening part before, he curiously wondered what the gift box was. The small handle on the side of the gift box started slowly unwinding and in 5 seconds, the darkness surrounding him cracked and shattered, dropping like pieces of black stained mirror around him. The gift box, the music, and the darkness completely disappeared and Liam found himself standing, or rather floating, in the very familiar, vast bluish-purple sky. He could even already feel the breeze that whooshed past him. Chapter 4, Character Creation. Liam sucked in a big breath of air and shouted, "I am back." Not startling him in the least, a voice suddenly sounded behind him and he immediately swung around to listen to the familiar words. "Welcome, Earthling. I am Elena. I will be your guide for today." A little fairy with 2 shiny pink wings on her back buzzed up and down, naturally flying in the air. Liam, on the other hand, knew that he was currently flying atop the world only thanks to the fairy's magic. This is Evolution Online, a new and exciting game. Would you like to be an adventurer in our world? Elena flapped her wings and asked with a cute smile that revealed her dimple. There were even instances where some people said no, and as a consequence, they were not allowed to enter the game for another month. By then the game had exploded exponentially, and those people who were late by a month could only swallow their bitter truth and be left in the dust, permanently lagging behind. Moreover, it was not possible to create separate avatars or change your appearance in this game. Everything from the real world was directly mirrored in-game and everyone only had one shot at playing the game. It was impossible to make multiple accounts or start fresh all over again. Such a thing was both a blessing and a curse. After finishing with the consent, the fairy then directly started with a brief introduction. There are different classes. No need. Liam abruptly cut her short. His entire brain was already filled to the brim with information about the game and he didn't want to waste his time. There were also no secret advantages or hidden prizes for people listening to the entire boring lecture, so he bluntly stopped the fairy. The pretty Elena flapped her wings with a small frown on her face. Nevertheless, she moved on to the next topic. "I will now be doing a complete scan of your body, Liam, and your character will be finalized shortly after the scan." Suddenly felt naked, as if he couldn't hide anything from the woman in front of him, as if she was peering through his very soul. Others might be impressed by the strength exhibited by the fairy, but he knew that this was simply just the usage of a high-level inspection skill. After scanning him from top to bottom, the fairy then spun around and beamed in excitement. "Congratulations! You are now ready to enter our amazing and wonderful world, Zion. I wish you the best of luck, player Liam." Before Liam could react to anything, the space around him distorted once again and he found himself standing in the middle of a crowded street. Whoa! What the hell is this game, dude? I was playing something else and I suddenly ended up here. This looks so real, right? I didn't know a video game could be so realistic. Why the fuck am I fat in the game too? Can't I change my stupid avatar? This is too frustrating. Het. Are you disappointed that you couldn't make yourself look good and catfish some pretty chick? What? What are you even talking about? Most of these players are guys. Look around. I can't see a single girl. I guess the gender, age, and appearance can't be changed. Phew. It's better this way. At least when I am with a girl, I know I am with a girl. Alright. Let's log out and find more information about the game. I have no idea where to even begin with. Liam was completely surrounded by other players in the novice village and loud chaotic chatter rang out from all directions. Everyone was trying their best to figure out Evolution Online since it had suddenly been force-launched in their game capsule without any prior warning. The game was also very peculiar and weird in the sense that it was almost too real. One was completely unable to change any part of their identity and was also able to move and feel things as if they were in the outside world. Such a realistic game was leaps and bounds away from the other video games that were currently in the market. Was this some sort of guerrilla marketing strategy for the game? No one knew anything about it, not even the company the game was produced by. This was very unusual as such details were heavily advertised at the beginning of every single game. But here, no such information was provided. No one knew where the game came from and how they were able to log into it. Some were even worried if this was similar to a popular anime where the players are trapped in the game and a death in-game meant death in the real world as well. So they were a bit hesitant to explore the new game freely. Of course, more avid gamers and other courageous youngsters did not dilly-dally around. They immediately started chatting with the local NPCs to start receiving quests, as that was the obvious start to any game. Liam, as well, was among this group of players. However, he didn't bother aimlessly walking around and begging for quests. He directly walked out of the novice village until the crowd thinned and there was no more ruckus. Alright. Let me first check my status screen. Chapter 5, Starting Stats. Liam sat on a rock, right outside the novice village, and opened his status screen. Next to him, a couple of people were already fighting the rabbits and squirrels, which were beginner-level beasts. However, Liam was not in a hurry. In fact, he didn't plan on gaining any experience points for now. He calmly willed his status screen and first took a look at things. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, Chang Liam. Species, human being. Gender, male. Level, 10/200. Title, N/A. Class, N/A. Health, 10/10. Mana, 10/10. Stamina, 2. Intellect, 2. Strength, 2. Defense, 2. Vitality, 2. Agility, 2. Ha ha ha. Liam chuckled at the sight of his familiar pathetic starting stats and quickly closed the screen. The beginner stats ranged from 0 to 20 depending on each individual's prior condition. Liam being very malnourished and his current body lacking any physical training, it was no surprise that his starting attributes were all on the lower side. After all, he had started with the same stats last time as well, but the difference was that he now knew what to do. This small difference in abilities at the start might not seem much, but ultimately it slowed you down and pushed you to the bottom, even before the game began. Liam shook his head sighing and then opened his inventory. There was a worn-out pair of pants, a shabby-looking mismatched pair of shoes, a sleeveless shirt, ripped here there, and lastly a rusted long sword. These were the beginner items that were uniformly given to all players on entering the game, all level 1 and all pretty much useless. But since Liam was currently in his underpants, he still took these trash items and equipped everything. The 3 items of clothing each gave 1 defense point, and his previous 2 defense immediately went up by 3 points. This boost wasn't really that much, but roaming around half naked sometimes ticked off certain NPCs, and Liam couldn't possibly remember each and every single NPC's characteristics. So to be on the safer side, he threw everything on. After the issue of clothing was resolved, Liam then opened the map feature to check where he was. Beginner players typically spawned in novice villages that were on the outskirts of towns and cities, and Liam had spawned in Coldwater Village. It was a small village without many resources in the northern part of the Gresh Kingdom. So an hour walk to the next town. Alright. Let me start. Of course, it was also possible to reach the next town in a much shorter time, but Liam took the roundabout main route frequented by villagers and merchants. He did this because he didn't want to come across any wild beasts and be forced to fight them. Not that he was too weak to fight these beasts. While others busily hunted for wild beasts and starter quests to increase their level, Liam alone leisurely walked over to the next town. It took him a little longer than an hour, but just like he had wanted, he reached his destination without any hitch. Thankfully, unlike cities, towns did not have any entry fees, so he was also able to smoothly walk past the town guards. If I remember correctly, Liam paused at the entrance of the bustling town and sucked in a deep breath before he scurried along the crowded streets. Compared to the novice village, Basla town was a much bigger place and had several stores and vendors and even an auction house. Liam directly headed towards one of the more flashy buildings in the northern part of the town, the bank. But he didn't enter inside the bank, as it required a certain reputation and fame to borrow money from the bank. Rather, he entered a small building on the same street, just a couple of blocks away from the bank, with a sign that read Leilani's Pawn Shop. Inside the shop, a fat salesperson was sitting who revealed oh, what a big sum.